Hi and welcome on my channel. If you don't know me, because I don't make that many videos in English, I'm Kathu and I have a blog, a channel obviously, and I'm present on social media to carry or to share my vision, my queer, feminist, fat, disabled vision on tarot and oracle and spirituality and much more. When I came across this tag yesterday on a Cramarin 18's channel, all the links will be down below, don't worry if my pronunciation is just awful, and I felt like now that's a fun challenge to join, and I've been struggling in terms of what I want to bring up in my videos, what I can do with my chronic illness without feeling way too drained. And I thought that was really something funny and original, and yeah, with the connection with astrology, I thought it was creative enough. So little heads up, it's all for fun purpose. So of course, I have my own analysis on astrology and it can be very nerdy at times, but here I'm all here for the fun. Maybe you won't connect with what I see in a sign, how I read it, also connect it to my own natal chart, and I'm a Virgo rising, and that's all good. I mean, the point of it for me is really to connect the energy of a deck with the energy of a zodiacal sign. The way I went with this process was like very instinctive. Okay, this sign, okay, I'm thinking of this deck, blah, 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 blah. I have my little list there. And truth be told, there were some signs that were more of a struggle to me, but I think it's the point of it as well. I mean, with astrology, you don't have a same clear, crystal clear vision with every or connection with every single sign. By the way, if you're a French speaker and you usually watch my videos in French, please be aware that I'm only making this video in English as well because the tag is in English, but there's actually a video in French, so you can go ahead and watch that one instead of just listening to my weird English accent. Because why would you do that to yourself if you can understand French, right? Go check out the links. I need to have also a word of precaution concerning the concept of sun signs. When we talk about signs here, we're definitely not talking about sun signs. So if I say, oh, I don't connect really well with, I don't know, Sagittarius or Capricorn, doesn't mean that I don't connect well with people with a sun in Capricorn or Sagittarius. It just means that the sign in general, which is so much more than the sun in this sign, and also that we all have somewhere in our chart and that is meaningful to us all, it's just something more difficult, but it doesn't mean anything about people who are Capricorns or Sagittarius or whatever. Sadly, pop astrology can make it hard for us to distinguish between theory and the sign in general and the particular case of someone having a sun in this sign. And I'm not all against pop astrology, this is not the point, but it's absolutely not what I'm talking about here. It must be fun as a video, but it is certainly not a video to talk about people and their own placements, apart from myself, because it's easier to tell you how I connect with the deck according to where it is a certain sign is in my own chart. By the way, one deck for each sign. I'm never gonna play by the rules. Sometimes there will be runner-ups, and I'm gonna explain why it was hard for me to determine which deck would be the only one. So there will be a main one, like the gold medal, but there will be sometimes a podium around it. Actually, there's a pile there. It's all of my tarot decks. Not all of them, but my selection for this tag. And here we have the oracle decks. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna put them all into a single video, or am I gonna split it into several videos? As for now, it's a mystery for me, but if you're watching, you already know. Without further ado, let's dive into it. And we start with Aries, the first sign of the zodiacal year. And I picked the New Chapter Tarot. My main reason for picking this deck is actually this card. It's the Fool, and on it you can see the Roman god Janus. How do you say in English? Janus? Janus? Which is associated with New Year's. And here it is used for the astrological New Year, because or vernal equinox, because you have here Pisces and here the little symbol for Aries, which you actually can see here. I'm telling you. And we have the hair, le lièvre, the sort of bunny, but it's not a bunny, right? That is also connected to the season, to Ostara, to the spring equinox. We have a crocus here, which Catherine Briggs, the other associated and creator of this deck, associated with Hermes and Mercury here. It's a funny take on the Fool. It's not the usual associations. The Fool is usually connected to the air signs, and sometimes in modern astrology to Uranus. Sometimes there are other systems as well, but I've never seen this one before. To be fair, it's a deck that is also inspired by the Tarot system, so maybe that's one of the reasons why we have such a mix of esoteric occult references in it. It's called a New Chapter Tarot, and so I like it as well that as the wheel of the year turns here with the symbolic start at the spring equinox, we go into new adventures or we transition in some way. And with Aries here in the northern hemisphere, everything starts to bloom, the green starts to spring, sprout, whatever. And I really enjoy this idea with this deck. I also find it interesting that we have, much like the magician usually, all the symbols of the minor arcana suits. I think it's fascinating that I think as the cardinal sign that starts the year officially, or the series of the zodiac with Aries, I can feel like everything is here in potential, everything is ready to bloom, and I like this allusion here to all signs in the Fool. It's not traditional, maybe in the Thoth system, and maybe I don't know it well enough to say for sure, but yeah, new chapter. And maybe it's not it's not a coincidence that I aged it in orange, so it's kind of Aries as a color. And my cat Sawin loves when I speak English because my tone changes, and she loves the variations in my voice, so she comes to salute you. Do you want to go there? Are you gonna find some? We do have a runner-up for this position, for the Aries. It's the Urban Tarot. This deck is inspired by the Thoth system as well, and it's kind of more heavily inspired by it. How does it connect to Aries energy for me? There's a sense of adventure that could go with any other fire signs probably, but there is also something of a sense of freedom, of being bold, daring, going out there, exploring the urban settings, visiting the city, and also maybe sometimes shenaniganing in the city or something like that. So I love this energy that also very straightforward, upfront. That's very Aries to me. So it's a runner-up. Taurus, 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 Taurus. Now I love Taurus. I have my moon and my Mercury, my dear Mercury in Taurus. I love this sign. I love everything about it. And the first deck the main deck I have for this sign is the Herbcrafter's Tarot. Why? Because this deck brings us as apprentice, gardeners or herbalists in our relationship with the plants. And we start very little and then we go more expensively, maybe we transform, we harvest, and all that is shown throughout the cards and the guidebook. And I really love that process of starting slow, by connecting, by getting to know, by see what's on your doorstep, what's growing there, and little by little getting to know some plants and getting to grow as an herbalist, an apprentice, a gardener. I really love this idea. Could go with Virgo as well, but for the curiosity and the presence, and also there's a homey quality in it. Look, it looks cozy in some cards. Like we're just in the kitchen preparing some potion with the plants. It also brings attention to plants that are endangered, which is really interesting, and it invites us not to be too hedonistic in our relationship with nature, with Taurus, but also to question, to go further. A plant deck could go with any earth sign, but I think this one is more Taurus for me, because there's a system, a classification, and there's sometimes some compartmentalizing with it. I would say that there's something Virgo as well, maybe in the transformative process we have with the plants in some cards, but I still want to see it as something sometimes more fresh or intuitive, that I would relate more with Taurus. Oh, look how Taurus it is, right? It's the 3 of water cups, and it's lemon balm. That was my main deck, but the first one that actually came to mind is the Kawaii Tarot. I just got it, and the thing is, it's so, look, the foods, oh, cute, ha ha ha, are comforting. To me, there's something like sort of, yeah, it feels good, and that's how I live. Taurus, especially because I have my moon in Taurus, maybe. But you know, I know it's a sort of a cliche on Taurus: food, 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 and more foods. But there's sometimes there's sometimes something true behind cliches, and I think food goes really well with Taurus. And you know, enjoying yourself, carpe diem, hugs, cuddling as well. So see, it goes well with Taurus, right? I'm quite happy with this choice as well. It's a new deck. I don't think it's more of a funny take on Taurus, but I had to mention it. And I also have to mention the famous Gentle Tarot, because it's so gentle, and the way that it connects us to nature, that is very tender, it's very soft towards humans, but it also brings to our awareness how we interact with nature, how we place ourselves in ecosystems, how we can respect them, and see the animals on it are also very Taurusian for me. So there's a Taurus energy in this deck for me. The colors as well, and the softness of this is the first edition of the cards, the matte finish. The matte finish is very sensitive. No, not sensitive. You know, you explore the deck with your senses as well, and to me that's very Taurus, and this deck is very satisfying when it comes to the touch, the feeling, everything. That makes Taurus for me, because my moon is in Taurus, right? So I get to be a feeling of body intimacy, and day-to-day life to me is very Taurusian, and this deck is very satisfying. I don't know if you can hear it. It's a very heavy day in terms of wind today. It's terribly windy. So we are the Belgium is in alerts when it comes to that, because it can be dangerous winds, and there's a lot of noise out there, which is funny because there's also, well, here we have the very grey clouds coming from the west, but there's also a very cool patch of blue sky there, bringing us some sun. I guess it's my Venusian Taurus approach to life. I have to talk to you about the weather. It's not small talk to me, right? Never is. I have to show you Sawin, who is at the same time enjoying a spot near the sun, but also protecting from the sun. Shawin, you are the funniest animal I've ever seen. Gemini, 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 Gemini. Now my sun is in Gemini, my midheaven as well, my Venus, Chiron, my Hecate asteroids, which is important for me. Oh, my North Node as well. So yeah, 10th house, public roles, social. Sun on the midheaven, North Node, Gemini. So when I take my role as a YouTuber, I'm definitely acting as a Gemini. The next 12 tarot is the first one that came to mind. I wonder if it is because 2 years ago I got to listen to Christy Rode, the creator, in Brighton, and she presented the deck, and she did insist on creating and reading tarot and the connection to tarot as a Gemini sun. So I guess now that I know it, I can't unsee it, that this deck has a connection to Gemini. But I would also say, I mean, I understand why you would connect it to other air signs like Libra for the sense of justice and social justice, or for being post-apocalyptic and special in the way that it represents the world. You could also connect it with Aquarius. But to me, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that, 3 of Cups. To me, it's definitely a Gemini deck. Okay, I have to say, this is the first auto-published edition. And now that I also have the one that is more readily accessible, I did take the liberty to take all the borders out, including the titles and everything that was in there, because it's so big that I wanted to be able to sort of carry it in my tiny hands. I also love the choice of pink for the borders, and because we're on camera, I think it's easier to show you with the bigger cards, but you must know the actual version. I have the pocket edition, of course, and there's a lot more going on in the margins, right? Is it okay? Fais la mise au point. Doesn't want to. That's why I'm showing the big ones. I think it's an original. It's eccentric, it's kind of extravagant. There's so much going on every card. It's like it's a talkative deck. Like it wants to say so much, but then there's more and much more. There's even words on some cards and so many details. And to me, that's a kind of, okay, we love details because Mercury, but also we don't like to have a synthetic, to do anything synthetic with it, you know. We need to have everything on it. To me, it's the over-the-top, very chatty aspect of Gemini, or a Gemini Sun, or a Gemini Mercury that I can see in this deck, and I love it. And it's flamboyant as well, which you can connect to other cards like Leo, for example. Oh, this is the this is the Strength card, by the way. But to me, it's Gemini. It's a deck with a lot of tradition, and you can see it on the keywords with every card that revisits the Golden Dawn order, take on the keywords, and also the Thoth system, and there's also the connection, like the planetary connections that are written on the small cards, on the other cards. But with so much nerdy stuff, you know, so much things that are kind of like more scholar or intellectual. There's also something like so punk in this deck. A feeling of, I know the rules, I'm gonna play with them, but I also gonna make it my way. That's very Gemini. So there are many reasons why actually this is a sort of Gemini deck for me. So my immediate response to Gemini was Next World Tarot. And then I thought about it once more and was like, yes, but, and here we go with another heavily modified deck by me. It's the Many Queens Tarot. The cards used to be really, really big. It was impossible for me to handle them, and as much as I love this deck, it got impossible for me to use it. So I had to do something. I had to dare to sometimes cut elements away, or words, or let me show you, shadows, sometimes titles, but sometimes I also had to cut in the middle of a title, as you can see here. I went for it because I wanted to be able to use this deck, and I couldn't as it was that big. I have tiny hands and I have hypermobility. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, so I had to do it. And as I was enjoying myself in the process of literally destroying this deck, I thought, why not add colors? Because why not? I mean, I went as far as to cut parts of, like here, a lot of hair went down. Why shouldn't I also bring some colors in it? And I went for it. I don't know, some might hate me for it, but I stand with what I did. Why is it a Gemini deck for me? I think it's also this extravagant quality, this funny quality, quirky quality. We can see that the creator knows very well everything about tarot, but also that she went for it. She was like, let's do something fun, something different, something also with some too many details at times. Look at those roses here. It looks funny, but funny like weird, but I love it. I think it's Gemini, and there's a sense of coming together and chatting and sharing the news and everything that you can see on some cards, especially the 10th. The 10, I can see a 10 somewhere, maybe not. You know, maybe after all, Gemini is very queer to me, and there's so much queer vibe in this deck that I have to classify it as Gemini. I don't see a 10. Oh, whatever. Oh, by the way, I need to tell you that I wrote a review for this deck for the Little Red Tarot website, where you can also find my old column on fattening tarot. So I'll post the links below. Last but not least, because why should I choose? When we are in Gemini, we take it all the information, everything there is to know, and everything we don't need to know, but we want to know still, is going to be part of the fun. Gemini, right? Okay, this is a little less known tarot. It's a French tarot deck. It's called Tarot d'Ego by Imiskil. It's self-published. I don't know if I'm very satisfied with the way that this is produced, but it's kind of usual for my Marseille-inspired French decks that are made by artists. And it's a deck that represents rapers. See, can you see the names and everything? So I don't use Marseille. I don't like the Marseille Tarot de Marseille decks. But I had to show you this one because I think with this creative energy, this extravagance energy as well, being outgoing, and also rap means a lot of words in little time. So I think it's pretty Gemini for me. Look at this deck. Oh, talking about Gemini. Okay, it was the Tarot d'Ego. I feel like I speak way too much, but now at last we have a water sign, and water signs mean it's time to just lower the voice and let the feeling speak, the intuition speak. We're in another realm, and I think the Ophidia Rosa Tarot is what connects me more to the realm of the Cancer as a sign. First of all, it's a deck that I like to read with when the sun is in Cancer. I don't know why, but I don't use it that much, but it's usually the time of the year that I connect with it. I love it because there are not so many details. There's not really a system behind it, and it gives way to the intuition. It provokes a lot of intuitive reaction for me, even clairvoyant or clairaudience reaction that I don't always have with any deck. But this one allows me to to tune into the frequency of sheer intuition and vision and otherworldly qualities. So there's definitely something that's perfectly Cancerian for me in this deck. And I don't want to say much more because honestly, let's dive into those waters. Ocean waters. I have chosen another deck with Cancer. I know it's a cliche with Cancer that I don't find really queer or really useful. I find it really straight and carrying a lot of heteronormative values to connect Cancer with the mother. But there's something that I like to explore with that. It makes me think this deck is the Daughters of the Moon. It's actually the Dutch version, Dochters van de Maan. And the moon rules Cancer, obviously. And this deck, for many reasons, it's outdated for me. It doesn't work that much. There are a lot of values and representations issues that are not up to date according to me, but because it's so full of the goddess movements and of imagining or scientifically trying to prove a matriarchy or matrilinear epistemology or something like that. Like, there's something around creating more matriarchal links between women and feminists that was in the ideology of this deck, and that was really important back then. Because it's called the Daughters of the Moon, because the moon is connected with those matrilinear structures or bounds, I wanted to give it a shout out. It's not a deck that I use, it's more a deck that has a historical significance for me as someone who has a background in gender studies and who is a historian and who loves to round about what we pass as feminists between generations and movements and things like that. And in that sense, it definitely has, it just makes sense for me to associate it with Cancer, as imperfect as it is. Okay, Cancer, check, it's done. Now, Leo, that's one solar sign. It's a vibrant sign, it's a generous sign, it's an egoic sign, it's a sign of shining and sharing and being radiant and brilliant, and I love some Leo energy. Let's start. Ta-da! It's the Outgrow Yourself Oracle and Tarot deck. Yeah, it's kind of a mixture. I'm not gonna go into that now. It's not the point, honestly. It's a sort of tough deck. You see, no way. Ah, well. There's an oracular signification for each card, as you can see here. You could see if the, yeah, maybe not then. Ah, the sun is back. Leo! No, back under the clouds. Right, so we have the titles of the major arcana cards and the court cards. And we have the keywords of the tough system for the minor arcana cards. Gosh, why doesn't it work? Okay, the camera won't show, so you have to believe me that we have the keywords from the tough deck for the minor arcana. This is a major arcana cards, and then we have funny, sometimes trashy, sometimes disturbing oracular cards with oracular sentence with each card. Outgrow yourself is so very Leo. It's when the sun is up there and the flowers give their last big, expensive glow before they start to fade away and go back to the ground. There's something in the colors. You can see the color palette is very animated by yellow and reds and oranges, so that's really nice. I don't know, there's something about, I think that the creator of this deck and the other decks by the same creators, it's always the same character, but to me it's not like a lack of representation. It's more that she kind of depicts herself in every single one of the cards, and I like that, how you can, you know, conjugate your own personality through all the 78 cards. I find it very Leo, a very Leo thing to do. Last is the Strength card, so the Leo card in the Thoth system. This one is a special precious deck. I very much enjoy Niki de Phalle's work in general, and I also have a lot of reservation on certain topics, including her depiction of fat women as a thin person, her depiction of black women as a white person. But here we're just trying to connect it with Leo energy. So the story of this deck is, it wasn't published by Niki herself, it was published after her death by her foundation in order to take care of the tarot garden, Il Giardino dei Tarocchi. I'm not very good in Italian, as you can tell. I'm not sure she would be very proud with the very, very deficient quality of the cards. Someone brought it to me from the actual gardens in Tuscany. What's really important about this garden is the idea that Niki had, I think throughout, like it was in the 70s or the 80s, that she would go in such a sunny place as Tuscany, and she would have a huge garden over her, huge sculptures, and she used to do very big sculptures, but this was going to be even more upscale, bigger than big, you know, and she would uncover all the complexity of what the 22 cards that she saw as big archetypes and also reflective or collective in conscience. I mean, this is fun, this is nice, but let's have a look, okay? Come with me. Look, we actually have one of Niki's Nana over there, hanging and decorating the place. What I do want to show you is some examples of what she did with the garden. Can we talk about the Leo radiant energy in these huge sculptures? This is the Taurus garden, or at least part of it. There's a lot of maquettes and small sculptures and designs related to this. The Temperance is obviously one of the most famous because she had sculptures all over Europe and maybe even elsewhere. So voilà. Voilà, c'est obligé. It has to be a Leo deck for me. Virgo is my ascendant, so it's a sign, I don't know if it's it's a consequence of it, but it's a sign that I really love. So I chose the Spolia Tarot Oh, Kathu, why another out-of-print deck? I don't know, because I'm lucky enough to receive out-of-print decks and I love them. I'm sorry to say that I'm starting to feel really tired because I'm actually filming in both languages. For each sign I'm making a video in French and another one in English, and then I'm gonna have to get it, edit it all. And it's actually pretty tiring, especially with my EDS. So I'm gonna finish my day with Virgo and do it again some other day. So though you're only halfway through the video, but you're actually having me really tired, as if the video was way longer than it actually is. Well, it's actually long, isn't it? You know, I don't know yet, but I'm only guessing that I have a problem. I speak too much. If you're watching my videos, it's because you're okay with that, right? Okay, let's go. The Spolia Tarot it's possible to read it as a Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's also inspired by the Minchiate, I don't know how you pronounce it, which is an older tarot deck from the time where there was much more cards way more cards in each tarot decks, and it wasn't fixed yet that there would be 22 triumph cards, trump cards, and what they would correspond to. So here we have the 78 cards plus 5 cards for the elements, and let me check because I edged it in orange, and 12 cards for the zodiacal signs. It's yet another deck that I modified a lot to make it a bit more manageable for my small hands, but actually it's hard. There's nothing good in the quality of this deck, honestly. Now, though, why is it a Virgo deck for me? Well, first of all, look at this Virgo card, isn't it pretty? With a nun or something, and a cauldron, very Capricorn as well. I love these cards. And also there's something about mixing tarot traditions and mixing elements of Hermetism and occultism and all kinds of philosophical traditions and esoteric traditions. I'm not sure that I really love it. I'm not sure that sometimes it's not too much for me, but look, here it is. Hermes Trismegistus. Oh, I'm too tired to have my words. So this way of working with many references and doing something with it, classifying it in something that makes sense. Also, you can see in the way that the collages are made, that you have something kind of similar, taking different inspirations and making it work together. To me, it's very Virgo, and in a way, all that work, but it goes into sharing a vision of tarot, and it makes me think of the notion of generosity and service in the attention to detail and care that is related to Virgo as a sign. Okay, you might have noticed that my English is long lost, gone somewhere between when my brain worked and when my chronic illness started to kick. Well, I can't seem to be able to stop actually, because let me tell you, my wife is on the way back home. I'm like, if I don't do it today, I'll never have time to finish this video. So let me try and speed up the whole process to do it in the upcoming 20 minutes or so. Doable? You know the answer, you know the timing, I don't. For Libra, I chose the Spacious Tarot. It was a very intuitive answer for me, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to justify it, which is maybe part of the fun. At first I think of Libra as a sign that is nice, you know, like diplomatic is maybe a catchword or something, but like that they are able to listen, to have an actual conversation, and to listen to the other's point of view, and to have an exchange. So in that way they are very, maybe they can be consensual, but they're also really kind, you know. And I think that I can see that in the Spacious Tarot, in the way that it holds space for us. And I also did a review of this deck for Little Red Tarot. I'll drop the link down below if you want to read it. And it's so, yeah, it's generous and nice, and it listens to you. It's like, okay, do you need space? I'm gonna give you space. And you're in this space, and you can find yourself and your space into that space. Does it make sense? Your own place in the space. But there's also, to me, a sense of justice that's very Libra, right, in this deck, because it doesn't invite us to use the landscape that is shown here in the deck, in each card. No, it does invite us to be more considerate, to take our place into consideration, because it holds space. We are invited to reverberate this space back and to reflect on our place within ecosystems from an ecological point of view, let's say. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say, because it's hard for me to find the right word. The right words. It was just, it has to be the Spacious Tarot. All right then, it's up to you. You'll be the judge of me. Is it a smart choice or not? And by the way, let me know in the comments. Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. My two malefics are in Scorpio. I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you that I use traditional Hellenistic Western astrology. So if my delineation of Scorpio or Aquarius, so Aquarius or Pisces are quite different from the modern interpretations, it's partly because it's not the same ruler for the sign, and also other considerations. I need the Holler Tarot to connect to Scorpio energy. First of all, it's an autumn deck for me. Scorpio energy is intense, it's deep, it's not afraid of depth and introspection and going into what people are afraid of, going into what we ourselves might be afraid of. It dives deep, and so does this deck. The color palette is very, very Scorpio to me, but also just the magic of a collaborative deck being able to go that deep, which is quite rare, and to be so cohesive and so just so deep. I have no other words. It's one of my favorite decks, and it has to be a Scorpio, right? Yes, it has to. Next we have Sagittarius, and it's another chunk that might be hard for me to explain or defend, because it was quite instinctive. I think that my main reason behind this choice of Theas Tarot for this sign is that, to me, it is an ancestor deck, because it was born in 1984, just like me, and it bears the lineage of lesbian, feminists and queer history. So as Sagittarius is my IC, as it is my 4th house, I think that to choose an ancestor deck for me, such as the Theas Tarot, is just the right choice. So that's a very personal consideration. It's not, oh, it's Sagittarius because this or that. So let me try and make a connection now. I think it was a visionary deck, and we can't say it now because we have all those years to let us know that it's one of the very, no, I don't want to say one of the very first deck, but it tragically re-envisioned tarot from a lesbian point of view, which as a lesbian I can appreciate. The sun playing hide and seek with the clouds is really fun from where I stand. 3 other signs to go, and I'm absolutely unable to explain my choice now. I've already made the video for this sign in French, and I was able to justify myself a bit more, but not anymore apparently, or at least not in a tongue that is not my mother tongue. So let's go on, move on, whatever. Capricorn, traditional, wants to secure what is, what was, to build on tradition and genealogies and stuff. And our tarot is a deck that represents a lot of female historical figures. Some of them are feminists, some of them aren't, some of them we can love and others not so much. Here's Victoria, for example. As you can see, it's another deck that I modified. Everything that was here is gone. It's the mass market edition, and the number or suits are there and the name of the person. So there we go, just so you know. Yeah. Building on tradition, gathering knowledge and facts, and conducting research. Think of the book that comes with this deck. And there you have something that's very Capricorn, very Saturnian, and yeah, a respect for history and the need to integrate it if we want to move forward, which sometimes Capricorn doesn't want to, but it's not necessarily a reactionary sign. There are many facets to what being a traditionalist can mean. Oh, Marsha, don't fall. Right, I have actually another choice for Capricorn, and it's a deck that could as well be a Virgo deck for me, but I kept it for Capricorn. It's the Holler Tarot. There are many reasons behind this choice. First of all, the author of the book decided, oh, Saturn in Aquarius is a judgment. She has a lot of knowledge of Hellenistic astrology, and from that standpoint, she decided to revisit the correspondences, astrological correspondences within the major arcana, which I think is really nice because it's sometimes they're really hard to get. In the minor, no, it's not the minor. In the minor arcana, we have the traditional Golden Dawn astrological correspondences. So there's this way of building from tradition, revisiting tradition and respecting them, and at the same time taking liberties. There's also the fact that the illustrator, she decided to use a lot of herbs, plants, animals, objects, day-to-day objects, and what else did I want to say? Minerals, to illustrate the cards, which I think is very nice for an earth sign such as Capricorn. And there's also another trick, is that there's an affirmation that goes with each card, and from the affirmation, I can't speak anymore. Yeah, I'm not eager to listen back to myself. I know that I'm getting tired and my English is just not sounding okay. So anyway, she made the sigil out of the well, you know what, out of the you know what, and all of the items here are following a sigil structures, secret sigil structures behind it. And you know, there's this respect of tradition, witchcraft. I hope that you see why I think it's very Capricorn, because I'm not able to explain why anymore. Now, the other Saturnian sign is Aquarius, and this time I have two decks, and I cannot say which one is the actual Aquarian deck for me, because they're both, they deserve this space. It's the Numinous Tarot, and you've seen it, the Fifth Spirit Tarot. Both of them, you know, Aquarius is very aware of the wall that Saturn places, but as opposed to Capricorn, which is really cautious to stay within the walls and to build within the walls, there's an expansion, an innovation in Aquarius. It wants to go further. It wants to break the walls, to tease with the walls almost. And I think that those very queer, very non-binary decks do this stuff. And they are very much aware of tradition, of Saturn, of the weight and potential danger of the tarot traditions, and they revisit it, whilst both of them are very attentive to the whole knowledge of tarot. They're kind of nerdy, all of them. The two of them are very, like, there's something scholar, as almost, yeah, a scholarly approach to tarot. So this desire to innovate and to bring us forward, to be visionaries, to dream, to make utopias come true, to me stands at the heart of both of these decks, and I really wanted to show them as decks for Aquarius. Last but not least is Pisces, and I chose the Wild Unknown Tarot for Pisces. Pisces is mystical, Pisces is dreamy, Pisces is connected to bigger forces, bigger energies, and it places us within this bigger collective, spiritual, emotional picture. And that's what I can see in the pictures of the Wild Unknown. But there's also the work of expansion that Pisces does as a Jupiterian sign. The Wild Unknown Tarot did for me, because it's my first deck. It's the deck I learned tarot with. And it really blew my mind. At first I was like, oh, I don't want to do this kind of tarot, this kind of tarot. I'm pretty skeptical about this and that and that. And tarot came under these guys. And everything I thought I knew, I had to revisit. I had to expand my horizon, my brain, and also my connections to the invisible, let's say. And it shifted everything. So that there couldn't be another deck for me being the Pisces deck than this one. It's also, with Pisces, we go back to the beginning. It's a bit of the alpha and the omega, and it makes sense for me to finish this video with my first deck. I'll stop there. I think my butch must be on the way. So it's time for me to finish. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for taking the time throughout this video, even though it's hard to understand a non-native speaker. It's not the first time I make videos in English. I have tried to make more videos, especially answers to tags in English, but I always, when I edit my videos, I listen to myself and I'm like, I cannot possibly share that. And when I speak, I have to be in my pace, so I can stop to think what sentence, what tense, all those things. But you know, when I listen back to myself, because my English is actually not as crappy as it sounds, I can hear all of my mistakes. Also, my pronunciation isn't good, so most of the time I don't understand myself, so I don't see how you could understand me. But also, yeah, I hear my mistakes, and it's hard for me to be as vulnerable as to put this video out there when I know there are tons of mistakes. So thank you for your support. I guess you support me or you wouldn't be there at that stage in the video.